Hello, and welcome to Crocheting with the Classics. This is part 2 of our beginners series, and today we're going to be talking about yarn materials and what their uses are. And we're going to start off with the all-purpose workhorse, cotton. So, this is cotton yarn, and the one thing you want to make absolutely sure of is that it's 100% cotton, not blended. This is very important, because cotton is the safest yarn to use for kitchen purposes. So if you're making pot holders or you're making towels, anything that would go in a kitchen that's going to be near heat, you want cotton, because cotton is not going to burn as easily as any of the others. You get acrylic, it will melt. Some of the others, they're not as melty, but they will smolder and catch fire easily. So anything you're making for a kitchen, you use cotton. Always. It's just safer. Now it also comes in this scrubby little yarn thing. So you notice this has fringes on it, and this is specifically for making little pot scrubbers and things like that. But you notice it's still 100% cotton. Don't ever get blended cotton. Now, you don't always have to use this for the kitchen, though. This is also good for amigurumi, those cute little crochet animals. Basically, anything you can make with any of the other yarns, you can make with cotton. Works just as well, and it's not rough. I mean, this is meant to be rough. But you can get really soft cotton to make garments, anything else you want, really. So this is our premium all-purpose workhorse of safety. Kitchen, use cotton. All right. Now, in other natural fabrics, we have wool. So notice line brand wool. And something to note here, here we go, is blended. 80% acrylic, 20% wool. That means if you use this in a kitchen, it's gonna melt. Now, why would you want to use wool for anything? Well, I wouldn't, but that's because it makes me itchy and I'm going to be regretting touching this later. But, and you're probably asking yourself, why'd you buy it? Why did you buy it if it makes you itchy? Well, when I bought it, I didn't know it made me itchy, and then I started making a blanket and found out the hard way. So that happened. This is one of the skeins I had left, and it's going to a friend of mine in a few days. Anyway, with wool, the reason you might want to use it if it doesn't make you itchy is because it actually wicks away moisture, which means it draws moisture away if you're sweating. So you don't get stinky and you stay drier. So this is actually great sock yarn or sweater yarn for cold climates to keep you from sweating underneath, because if you sweat in colder climates and then it starts to dry on you, you get colder. So wool is actually excellent for cold climates. I live in Arkansas, not really an issue here, which is why I hadn't messed with it before. But very good for moisture wicking. I'm going to put this away now before anything else happens. All right, so let's look at our next one. Now this is just fun. This is natural alpaca. This hasn't made me itchy yet. I'm going to have to make some more stuff with this. And it's 77% acrylic and 20% alpaca. And notice 3% viscose. So this is another natural yarn, and it's fuzzy and it's soft and it's pretty. So also good for fabrics. I believe it does moisture wicking as well, like wool does. The thing is, it's a bit more expensive. I mostly bought this because I saw it and I wanted to play with one and just to, oh, you know how it is with yarn. You see something pretty and you're like, I'm going to mess with that. I'm going to make something out of that. So that happened. And anyway, I'm probably going to make a little pillow or something out of this. But this is also good for socks, scarves, whatever. All right, so let's get into my personal absolute favorite of natural fibers, the bamboo silk. This is so soft. I made a shawl out of this. It's the scrap yarn pattern shawl because I used this stuff enough that I actually had enough scrap left to make a shawl out of it. And you notice it's 70% viscose from bamboo and 30% silk. And it's patent silk bamboo is what I'm using. And it is just so pretty and so soft, and you can make just about anything. I still wouldn't use it in a kitchen, but for literally anything else, if you're trying to make something really fancy and really luxurious, you can't actually go wrong with bamboo silk. I just love this stuff so much. And just think how soft a stuffed animal out of this would be. I really got to make one of those one of these days. All right, and the final most common form of yarn is the pure acrylic. So this is where you get into the nice cheap yarns that you can get really easily, that you find just about anywhere. But under no circumstances should you use this in a kitchen. It will melt. I want to be absolutely clear about that. This will melt. It will catch on fire. You do not want to use this near heat sources. Bad. No. So, that being said, I've got a nice big twist yarn from Joann's. This cost me a whole $2.75 for 380 yards of yarn. You can make anything out of this that doesn't go in a kitchen. Blankets, scarves, hats, shoes, socks, whatever. This stuff is your all-purpose workhorse outside of kitchen. And it's also the cheapest. So if you're just getting started and you're not sure you want crocheting yet or like it, this is a good way to find out because you can get really soft yarn very inexpensively. Now, acrylics come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. So let's have a look at some of those because it's not just stuff like this. You can get baby blanket yarn. So let's say you're picking up this just to make baby blankets, which, valid, perfectly reasonable thing to do. Lord knows people have babies and they want blankets. So you can make baby blankets out of this, and it's soft, and this doesn't pill. Specifically, this brand doesn't. And that's important because you're going to have to wash baby blankets. Babies will get them messy. They don't mean to, but they will. Also, you want something thick, something that you can do tight little knots in so that their little fingers can't work into the knots. That's just a safety concern. You don't want the baby tangled in the blanket. So, when making baby blankets, if you're starting out, maybe just use a baby blanket yarn. Just saying, probably safer. All right, now for the weird yarns. First off, personal favorite, I have made teddy bears out of this. This is fur yarn. It is yarn that is fuzzy and it is furry, and you can make little stuffed animals out of it that your niece will steal, run off with, and you will never see again because she ran off with them. She's adorable like that. That's why I don't have any stuffed animals to show you that I've made. They disappeared mysteriously. I can't imagine why. But in addition to making actual stuffed animals with fluff on them, you can also make fur scarves out of it and look really fancy. Or fur mittens, still looking fancy. So This is just absolutely awesome, and I cannot express to you how soft this is. It's wonderful. And it comes in a bunch of different colors. So, always a fun thing to play with. And this is 100% polyester. So, still not good around fires. It would be cool to have a pot holder out of this, but it would not be practical. And yeah, the fur would burn. All right. Next up, we have, this is kind of a ribbon yarn. So this is from Ice Yarns, and I found a bunch of these at a flea market. And then I got them. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do with them, but you can see it's got kind of individual threading here on these, and it's shiny. I mean, if you were looking to make pom-poms, this would be your go-to, I think. Anyway, this is, I can tell from the texture, this is going to be super melty if it gets near heat. There is no way this is anything close to cotton. It doesn't actually say on here because I believe this was made in Turkey. So, yeah, doesn't actually say what it's actually made of. But that's okay, because if you're not using it in a kitchen, it doesn't really matter what it's made of so much. Unless you're like, oh, me, and kind of allergic to wool. Then it maybe matters, but this isn't wool. So there's ribbon yarn. This is a small ribbon yarn. Actually Red Heart has these boutique sachets. This is another one I found at a yard sale. And just have a look at this. This thing spreads out. Is that not gorgeous? So if you were making a scarf out of this, you see what she's wearing there? You could actually do that pattern with this. But, and this is a serious but, you do not want to start out with this yarn, because your hook, if you're not careful, is going to go in one of those holes and pull, and things are going to rip, and it's going to go sideways fast. So wait until you've got a little more experience holding the hook and knowing what you're aiming for before you get into this, because this is an intermediate to expert yarn, just because it spreads out like this, because this spread here can cause all sorts of fun little problems. But it is so pretty, and it's softer than it looks. It really is. So this wouldn't be hard to wear at all. And you notice it's a 6, super bulky. And there's a reason for that. You want a big hook with this. All right, so we've got another baby yarn, Baby Soft Buckle. Now this one is actually a bit thinner. So I wouldn't make a blanket out of this. I would make a baby stuffed animal out of this, because a blanket with this is going to get, they're going to get their little fingers in there. There's just no way they're not. The little fingers are going in, things are getting pulled, baby's getting tangled up, and next thing you know, you accidentally knitted someone's baby. And then they'll have to throw it back. Just sad, really. So I would make a baby stuffed animal out of this, where you've got a nice, really tight stitch, and where they're not trying to sleep in it for prolonged periods. They're just, cuddling it. That would be the safest. That being said, it is very soft. I will grant them that. So this is another one you're probably not going to want as a beginner yarn, just because to get it as tight as you would need it is going to take a lot of practice holding that tension with your fingers. And lastly, we have the weird yarns. Well, a weird yarn. This is another one from Ice. This is a metallic, and this is the lace weight yarn, and it is rough but very, very shiny. So this would make a really fancy placemat. I wouldn't want to make a sock out of it because your feet would not thank you. And I think it would rub the skin off your feet probably, as rough as it is. But If you were making like a decorative lace to put over the top of something, this would be good. But again, this is hard to see. It's going to be hard to see the stitches in, so not a beginner yarn, but very pretty. So just to recap, if you're starting out, probably your best bet is something like this, just to practice with. Then go to the yarn store, look around, let your imagination run wild, because you can make anything out of anything, really. All right, so I hope that was helpful, and thank you for being with me today. Have a lovely morning. Goodbye.